About 2 weeks ago, I got the nastiest head cold and it's still kind of lingering, but because of that, I did not upload last week. But I am back with a reading wrap up, my September reading wrap up. It's wild. It's October now. I'm super stoked for the autumn season and all the spooky vibes and everything like that. And I've already started to get into my spooky TBR for 2025, so it can only get better from here. But let's get into it. I read 5 books in the month of September, and I started it off by finishing the Twisted series by Anna Huang. So I read Twisted Lies, which is the 4th and last book of that series, and I ended up rating this one 4 stars. I did actually enjoy it. For a romance, I thought it was much better than Twisted Hate. I think this one is my second favorite out of that series. The first one's my favorite, this is my second favorite, and then it would be Twisted Games is third favorite, Twisted Hate. I would not read that one again probably ever. But this was a really great start to my month of September. I really enjoyed it. I found the characters were quite likable and the spice to actually plot slash romance ratio was very well done for this one. So 4 stars, solid start. Then I finally finished a memoir that I've been listening to since I want to say mid-August-ish, and that was Unmasked by Paul Holes. This one I didn't rate because I do not rate memoirs, but it was very interesting, and if you are at all into true crime or detective work or anything like that, I highly recommend it. He was a, I believe, forensic detective that was on many different like high stakes cases, including some like serial killing cases, and he worked a lot of cold cases as well. And he also was a lead investigator in the Golden State Killers case, so very interesting to read about if you are at all into that kind of stuff. I listened to the audiobook and it was read by the author, which is always such a great touch, so I really enjoyed that aspect of it for sure. Then I finally started chipping away at my spooky TBR for this year, and I started with The Return by Rachel Harrison, and this book is absolutely 5 stars. It was so well written. It is the perfect blend of horror meets like atmospheric creepiness with a little bit of like nasty body horror, I guess you could call it. Very good. If you are into horror that's like paranormal, highly recommend this one. It was such a fun read, and there are certain scenes that I will never ever forget because they were either super disgusting or very atmospheric, and I felt like I was the main character experiencing these things. Very, very good. I was pleasantly surprised with this one. I was not sure going into it whether or not it was going to be really good or meh, but it was so good. I actually loved it so much. Started off a little strange and I was a little nervous, but it really picked up and became high stakes and I could not put it down, which we love in a good horror book. Then I got a little sidetracked from my spooky TBR because I was sent an arc on NetGalley called Mother of God, and I really loved this one as well. Now, I'd like to preface this by saying definitely not everyone's cup of tea. I really enjoyed the writing style. There are no quotations around anyone's dialogue, but there is a reason for that I'm not going to say because it would spoil it. But that aspect was used in a very clever kind of way. And then also it's written kind of like poetry at times. And I know not a lot of people are really into that. And I guess I should also say that the subject matter is very dark and disturbing. It is considered a psychological horror, and it is definitely that, but the most horrific part is that it's very realistic, horrific things that have happened. So that might not be for everyone. So I definitely recommend checking the content warnings if you do plan on picking this one up. But I really loved it. I thought it was super clever, very unique, and just overall weird. It was one where you really don't know what's going on, but you have to kind of trust it and go with the flow. And in the end, it will probably all make sense to you. And then the last thing I read in September was unfortunately not my cup of tea, and that is The Deading by Nicholas Blardis. This book was not for me, and I am not the only person who had the opinions that I have about this book because I later looked up the reviews on Fable and Goodreads, and a lot of people were thinking what I was thinking. I rated it 2 stars. I think it has an average rating on both apps of like 2.6 stars, which is not that great. So I wasn't alone. But this book, about halfway through, had me wondering whether or not I actually like reading because I just could not make myself like this. And I wish I wish I would have, because the premise was super interesting. Amazing idea. It describes itself as Stephen King's Under the Dome meets The Last of Us. Sounds amazing, right? The only thing is that the author had way too many ideas all going at once, but then was using such unnecessarily long descriptions for things that I got bored. Even though there was so much going on, it felt like there was nothing going on at the same time. And I know that makes absolutely no sense, but that's the only way I can describe it. I will say that the first couple of chapters of this book were very interesting, super horrific. It set itself up to be absolutely amazing. I thought there was going to be more of that. It was gross, it was scary, it was tense, it was everything you'd want in a horror novel, but sadly that just did not continue. Once I got to about chapter 5 or 6, I want to say, it was just downhill from there, and I cannot recommend this book. I'm sorry, but this one's going to be headed to the little free library. I'm hoping the person that stumbles across it will somehow really love this book, but it is definitely not for me. But that is what I read in the month of September. Let me know in the comments what you read in September and what your plans are for October / your spooky TBR if you've got one going. And with all that being said, I'm going to leave this one here. I hope you have a great rest of your week and happy reading.